I was out riding the CCM GP450 the other day, met up with some local riders who know the local area. They were all on the sort of smaller enduro bikes, trail bikes, something a bit more serious than the CCM GP450. But the bike did really well, to be honest. I'm really impressed. Unfortunately, due to the weather, the GoPro just packed up midway through, and so I wasn't able to get a full video of the ride. So I went out a few days later on the Himalayan, Royal Enfield Himalayan Euro 5 bike, just to retrace some of the steps, some of the lanes, just to put together this Scouting for Lanes video. So these are a few lanes just south of Barnstable, North Devon. Nice beginner lanes, some of them, perfect for people who just want to get used to a smaller adventure bike on the trails for the first time. So yeah, here we go, some lanes coming up.
Okay, so really icy out today, just taking it steady. Probably won't do too many lanes, to be honest, because all these linking tarmac stretches is really icy. Big chance of a spill on these roads. We've got a lane here. I remember this one. It's a decent little lane, this. And all past these houses. Bit stonier. Yeah, it's always a trade-off in winter, isn't it? If it's wet, you know, the lanes are quite wet and flooded. If it's cold, there's a risk of ice, and personally I think there's a higher risk with ice than there is of water. So here we've got a downhill descent. So actually I've got my clutch in then. How I tackled that downhill little stony section, clutch in, and I've just got my feather foot, right foot, on that back brake, and that's just holding the bike back, controlling the speed. Bring my weight back, and that's just to stop me being thrown over the bars, create any bumps or anything. And all the way down here, so I've got the clutch feathered, and I've just got that back brake. I've not touched the front yet. I'm in second gear, but I'm not relying on any engine braking. We've got a booby trap here, an ambush. Going to clear that out. Whoops, so daisy, don't fall over, don't fall over. I'll just move it if I can. Should have brought my axe-saw, shouldn't I? Looks like I'm going to get past that. Let's have a go this way. Let's have a go this way. The old ancient lanes of Britain, eh? So you got to think, all these tracks that we're riding, they're all part of the road network at some point, or part of the transport network before cars, quite possibly. And how they're still legal to be ridden on is because they're still classified as roads. And so yeah, legally there's nothing to say. You couldn't bring your Ford Focus down here, or your Mondeo, or your Zafira. It wouldn't go very well, and you'd be picking up pieces of it. There's nothing to say you couldn't bring anything down here. I've had a few emails from people saying they don't have these kind of trails in their country. There's Martin from Norway, I think, Germany as well, Scotland. So we are blessed really that there's these sort of weird anomalies of the old road network, which, as I say, are completely legal but challenging. You know, they're not off-road, because they are roads, if that makes sense, but they may as well be off-road. Got a gully here. You see how the Himalayan coats down there. The ground clearance is alright. Oh my word. Okay, so we've got quite a steep rocky descent here, lots of steps. Oh, sump guard crash there. I think it could have been the rear suspension, not joint. Back brake. I'm going to bring in a bit of front, bit of dab there just to keep me up. I was thinking about it the other day actually. On these downhill descents, you almost have to be like water, which sounds a bit trite, But if you look at the flow of water, it's making its way down here using the path of least resistance, and you have to use that same path. So almost if you sit in the flow of the water, you're probably going to be on the easiest best line. And just as the water's not going to fight the terrain, neither should you. So if the terrain's trying to flow you in one direction, unless there's a big obstacle there or a gorilla or something, just let it flow you that direction, because it's the natural flow of the trail, which then feeds into body stance. So I'm relaxed now, I'm trying to relax, I'm breathing, my arms are pretty loose, so I triangulate my arms. If you looked at me directly on, I probably look like a diamond. Shoulders up, quite broad in the shoulder, but I'm not gripping, I'm loose. Those bars can move, I'm just guiding those bars. I've given the bars just enough resistance that they're not kicking it, you know, they're not flapping. But the only pressure through the arms needs to be enough to stop that flapping. I'm quite light on the actual grip on the bars, and how I help do that, as you can see on my left finger, I've got my left hand, I've got 2 fingers on that clutch at all times, and ideally I've got 2 fingers on that front brake at all times, and that opens up your palm and stops you gripping as tightly. All the pressure really now is through my feet, and as I go through there, I'm just transferring weight from foot to foot to keep me guided in that groove. Second gear, it's got a good chug, this bike. So as we can see from that lane, the Himalayan doesn't have the outright ability of the CRF, because it hasn't got the ground clearance, it hasn't got suspension travel. But if you just ride it in a different style, i.e. more nursing, you have to nurse the bike a little bit, ride around its floors, then it will still do quite tricky lanes. I mean, that's not the trickiest lane it'll do, but it's the trickiest lane that most riders of the Himalayan are probably going to do. So I'm stood up all the way. People say, why do you stand up? Well, when you stand up, you're effectively, in many ways, doubling the amount of suspension travel you've got. Because when you sat down, there's no suspension at all through your body. But when I'm stood up, I've got my legs that work as suspension. What does that mean? I thought it said road closed. I've got my legs working as suspension. I've got my arms working as suspension. So the bike and my weight has got a lot more suspension travel when I'm stood up than when I'm sat down. There are times when it's better to sit down, whether you're tired or whether you just need good constant drive. But on technical stuff like that, where you need guidance, you need body flow, you need to increase the amount of suspension the bike's got, to me you have to stand up. There's just no way of doing it sat down. So there's a bit of this almost a kickback against the stood up adventure riders, and yes, riding through a car park stood up is a little bit daft, but if you've got a big adventure bike, even Himalayan or CRF, standing up is the best way, for me at least, to tackle those trails. I know there's Austin Vince, who's done a lot of travelling and a lot of trail riding on his CRF. He sits down all the time. Do I think that's the best way of doing it? No. Does he think it's the best way of doing it? Yeah. So it's hard to say there's a right and a wrong. There's just what suits you. And for me, I have to stand up. Better for the back, if nothing else. Right, and a clue where I am. Absolutely haven't got a clue. Okay, just found third lane. It's always tricky finding new lanes, because a lot of the starting points are, you have to turn down to a farm, or you have to go through a farmyard, actually open gates, or in this case you have to drive along a road that's signposted as a dead end with houses at the end. So if you don't know the lanes, you can look you can feel a little bit self-conscious, because people are curious. What are you doing there? And obviously some are like the peace and quiet of living down a dead end road, and then all of a sudden you've got someone in a bloody great big yellow helmet parked up looking for a lane. So if you're shy and retiring, it can be, or the shy and retiring type, it can be slightly awkward sometimes finding lanes. I did enjoy that bit about being led last week. I just followed Bob the leader, and it was nice not having to worry about those things, certainly when finding new lanes. I think once you know the lanes, you feel a bit more comfortable. You don't feel so self-conscious, because I know there's some people who don't care if they upset people, but I'd hate to think I were peeing anybody off. Hey, we're all different. Okay, so discussion on ABS, just coming down there, quite steep, bit rocky. ABS, did it kick in? I'm not entirely sure. I was on my back brake a little bit. It had a chance to kick in. Now people are saying all bikes or bikes need to be able to have switchable ABS. I'm not overly convinced it's as essential as some people make it out to be. If you're riding within your limits, it shouldn't really be an issue. If you're riding outside your limits and you're having to anchor on the brakes hard, then it could be an issue. There's pros and cons to ABS. I find off-road, if you've ever been to the off-road training school at BMW and ridden the bikes there, the GS12s with ABS on, what happens if you grab too much front brake and ABS is on, the bike just paralyses itself and doesn't give you any braking power. And it's same on the Himalayans, it's same on most bikes, to be honest. The systems just aren't up to scratch for working off-road, the ABS. And so therefore, in a way, having ABS is worse than not having ABS off-road. So that would be an argument for being able to turn it off. Having said that, it's only when you're riding like a wally that starts to come into play. And for me, trail riding, I tend to ride with enough in reserve to never worry about that moment when I might need to grab a load of front brake. Because to be honest, if you're riding and you suddenly need to grab a load of front brake, you've done something wrong. You've been riding outside your comfort zone. In terms of your back brake, again, don't care if it's on or off. I'm being sensitive enough on the back brake that it doesn't lock, and so therefore ABS doesn't engage, therefore it's irrelevant whether it's there or not. Again, if it does engage, it can almost paralyse the braking system and not give you anything. But whoa, sideways. Oh, that ice is a bit scary. But again, if you're riding and you're braking into ABS constantly, you're doing something wrong. You're being too heavy on the brakes. You're asking too much of them. And if you engage in ABS, all that means is, if without ABS you'd have been skidding, and neither are good things. So if your ABS is kicking in, oh shit me, this is black ice down here. If your ABS is kicking in, back off. Okay, I think it might be time to abort today, unfortunately. These link roads are just too hazardous. This is like an ice skating rink down here. It was actually on a road like this that this Audi A5 came past me earlier, squeezed me as I was trying desperately to stay on, and yeah, he did pull over and we had a little exchange of words, but only in a nice, gentlemanly manner. But I thought, you absolute pillock. He wouldn't realise though. He wouldn't realise that I'm like Bambi on ice on tyres on a motorbike. But yeah. Okay, we'll see how we go. If I can find another lane, I'll do it. If not, we might have to have an early bath on this one. The last thing I really want to do is end up in hospital with a broken collarbone or something just from coming off on the road. Not much fun. So let's see what we can do. If I see you on the next lane, I'll see you on the next lane. If I don't, I'll see you through the window. That's an old George Dawes joke, is it? Or Vic Reeves, one of the two. I don't know. Alright, track T, don't want to end up under that. See you later. Whoa. And I've just seen that there's a lane somewhere up here, so I'm just going to go in search of that. There's a couple of other bikes out today. Always surprises me how many people commute on bikes still. It's really good to see. Yeah, we think we're roughy tufty bikers going out trail riding in the cold and the wet, but There's people who do this, you know, get out in the cold and the wet for a living. They have to. That's how they commute. So yeah, we're not that tough. Actually, let's just take you along Instow seafront. Bit of a break from the trails. Like everywhere, it used to be a lot more industrial around here. Appledore over the way was a big shipbuilding area and town, or port. All that's gone. There is, I think there's a factory or a unit reopened to do some sort of shipbuilding, but obviously on a much smaller scale than what once was. Being from a mining town up in the Midlands, I know all about deindustrialisation and the way these places sort of suffer. Their livelihoods are decimated, identity is decimated really, because without that livelihood there is no identity. So yeah, these places all struggle badly really. Same in America. I've been watching some videos of the deep south, people travelling through the villages and towns of the deep south, seeing the decay there. I've seen it for myself. I've done a couple of bike trips across America, through Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas, Texas. There's a lot of those ghost towns where people have just left them really. Population dwindling, downtowns have been abandoned, strip malls on the outskirts, and yeah, really sad, dilapidated places. I think we do more in this country to preserve, or maybe because there's a lot less land mass, we can't just abandon towns and that like they do in the US. Maybe a bigger social security network over in the UK allows people to live in, I guess, what aren't economically viable areas and raise families there. America's a little bit more out on a limb. If you fail, it's on you to remedy the situation, whereas in Europe and England there's a bit more of a fallback. But yeah, I always enjoyed going across America just to see the contrast really. And yeah, two sides of America, just like there's two sides of anywhere really. So that's it. We're going to go and find this lane. I'll pull over in a second. I just need to get my bearings, go and find this lane. Busy though, busy through here, and there's no wonder. Nice sunny day, brings all the boys to the yard. That's a song, isn't it? Milkshake? My milkshake? No, I'm not going to sing for you. Anyway, as soon as I can take my hand off the handlebars, I'll turn it off. There we go. Okay, I think we're on the right track. Let's hope so. Let's bloody hope so. I think it's that lane up ahead you can see. Oh God, farmer's field, farmer's field, farmer's field, farmer's yard. Is it legal? Can I go? Okay, let's guess it being this one. Let's turn that engine off. I don't want to bother anyone. Horses. Oh God. Glad I'm not on a two-stroke. Glad I'm not on a two-stroke. But you can see the issue here. You can see why people get in bother. Because there is no sign other than a green squiggle on my map that I've got off the internet that might be out of date. You never know. You never know. You just don't know. You might have a farmer who's had a bad day, a dog that's had a bad day, and here comes old trail bike kid on his Himalayan with his yellow helmet on and his silly Indian motorcycle. How do? Anyway, we found a trail. This looks like a trail, so we'll go to the. We'll stick with it. We'll ride it until we get shot. But I'm riding away now, so it'd be a cowardly shot if he shot me now, the farmer. So we're going downhill. There's lots of long distance trials, by the way. There's a Facebook group for long distance trials, and they're where they have legal events and they knit together a really nice loop of trails. It's like competition but not overly strict, and they get access to some lanes that you can't do on a typical day, so they're worthwhile looking out for. Sort of Land's End trial, Exeter trial, Tamar trial, those sort of things. Well, this is beautiful though, isn't it? Something a bit different. Old bridge there. Wow, old woodland. Nothing too tricky either, this. Nice and manageable, that. What's good about the Himalayan is it is very chuggy. It's really responds well on the throttle. There's a good connection, which is what you really want. Better than any bike I ride, really. It's such a precise throttle, and that so when you're climbing and the back wheel's slipping, you can almost feel every rotation, every turn of the crank through the throttle, and that allows you to really fine-tune your throttle input and feather the throttle. So I find you don't need as much clutch slip as you would do on another bike. Even on that CCM GP 450, which actually was a lot better than fueling than I thought it was, or remember it being. Even on that, you're having to do a bit of clutch work, whereas on the Himalayan you can just feel it all through the throttle. And because it's got that long stroke motor, it don't want to stall on you. There we go. We're up. Not a great trail, was it worth it? Maybe. Who knows, who's to say? I guess you're looking to explore, not necessarily to race. And that's a big difference, I think. If I can have my say on that matter, I think that's where things have changed for the worse. Trail riding seems to be about having a performance bike and riding like your tail's on fire. Whereas to me, it should just be about getting out a little bit in the countryside, doing some lanes, riding at a pace that's not going to kill anyone, not going to upset anyone. Sometimes I get carried away myself, I suppose. We're all guilty, but you know, generally just icy road. Just doing it for the pleasure of riding, not racing. If you're doing it to race, you really want a racetrack, but then the provision's not there either, so it drives people to the trails. People speed on the trails, trails get closed, cycle goes round, bikes get banned, blah blah blah. But yeah, I'd love to see a return to humanitarian motorcycling, and by that I mean bikes that are just usual bikes. I think Enfield, you know, it's a great brand to be seen on the Enfield. Nobody gets upset when you're on an Enfield. Or just bikes like that aren't as hardcore as some of the trail riders now ride. Even the scooters, you know, you don't get really any bad looks when you're out on a CT 110. I just think the competition appearance of riders these days is maybe not doing us any favours. I know somebody's gonna be screaming at that. How dare you? I've got a enduro bike and I love going trail riding, you know, and that's absolutely fine. I'm not against it. I'm just saying I don't know. I wish people loved us more. Probably more self-conscious than most, so yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Never been here in my life before, this road. Beautiful. Got my can of tyre weld in case I have a puncture. And I've got my wife on speed dial if I break down any further, and she'll begrudgingly come out and rescue me. After that, you're on your own. But I will say, I tend to ride most at ease when I know, say I've got my wife at home or somebody who could come out and pick me up if things go badly wrong. And it's a bit like when I went around the world on my CT 110. I was on my own, just as I am today. But my parents were at home, who were, you know, speed dial. Do you need this? Do you need that? Do you need us to transfer you a bit more money? Are you struggling? Whatever, you know, whatever you need, just get you know, let us know. And it's having that soft support in the background that gives you the confidence sometimes to explore. And a lot of adventurers pretend that it's not there, but I think most adventurers have always got something in the background, that backup. that peace of mind that you know if the shit hits a flat fan, it's a phone call and things are rectified back home. Right, I'm either going to go home or find another lane. I'll see where I am. Right, catch you later. Cheers, bye. I think there's something to be said here, and that how far away from home do you have to be to have an adventure? I'm probably 4 miles from home now, but I feel I'll come home in a little bit of a day adventure. I've got incredibly icy roads, it's cold, don't entirely know where I am, don't entirely know where I'm going, and so I feel a little bit adventurous today. And I can just feel that back wheels spin, sort of like spin and then grab. Very odd feeling. So yeah, don't think you have to ride around the world to have an adventure. Just wait until the roads are covered in black ice and then get on your motorbike and see how far you get. Looking for the next lane. Just love all these old random village halls. Harricot Village Hall with the Union Jack bunting and everything, tin roofs. Yeah, it's old England, isn't it? Old England still exists. You just have to get off the main road, I think, and it's kind of there in abundance. It certainly is in Devon. You don't have to get too far off the beaten track to see old England. I think that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing. Oh, that's my wing mirror gone. Oh dear. Right, looking for home. Okay. Do it right here. Watch for the ice, and then we're straight into it. Make sure my phone's not going to escape. Probably going to need first up here. Let's have a find out. Good technical lane, so I'm going to get my weight back. First gear, soft arms. Keep looking up. I want to be driving towards where I'm aiming at, so I've got to get that keep that throttle open. That back end stepping out. I'm not touching the clutch, I don't need to because it's got that natural chug. And as I said earlier, I can feel every pulse of that back wheel, which is allowing me to throttle back when I feel it slipping and allowing me to throttle on when I feel it gripping. Loose knees, soft knees. I've got soft knees. The bike's bucking, it's slewing around at the back. That's okay as long as that front wheel's driving straight. Doesn't matter what the back's doing, that front is all important. Beautiful bike though for this. Right then, I got my line a little bit wrong. I was going to hit a big obstacle, backed off the throttle, didn't need to engage clutch. Almost a stalling point, but it don't stall on you. It's your friend up here, a bike like this. It's your friend. Now, the bloody ruts, so just there at the end, the ruts catch you out. So, Royal Enfield set out to build a bike that could be used in the Himalayas. That there is quite a tricky little British trail, that, and it came up it, no problem at all, no problem at all. Knobbly tyres, TKC 80s, not the most aggressive, but a decent set of tyres. I've got no extra crash bar. That was a rocky lane. Went up there, soft throttle, soft arms, let it move. I've not pressured down, I'm still running pretty much road pressure 20, actually hammered down a bit, 26 back, 24 front. Look at that, beast. £4,000 when they came out. Conquering British trails. But yeah, if you've got a Himalayan, it will go most places, it will. Should you swap one for a CRF 300 if you're going to do a lot more trail riding? The CRF's definitely got an upper limit of what you can achieve on it. There's certainly the L. Do you lose something on the road in exchange for what you gain on the trail? Of course you do. Again, life is compromised. What's your poison? Are you going to do more trail maybe go for a CRF. Are you wanting to balance it out, do an occasional bit of trail, but a lot of back road riding like we've done today, or even some long distance touring, I'd take the Himalayan. Would I worry about the breakdown issues of the Himalayan? Not so much. I'd take spare relays. The relays have let this bike down, and Royal Enfield have let this bike down by not fixing them bloody relays sooner. They should have recalled the bike, put new relays in them, because it's just little black boxes under here that you just need to pull out and put a new one in. 20 quid fix. To ruin the reputation of the bike, in some cases it has, for 20 quid, stupid. But that's all it really falls down on. That's all that's let me down. These head bearings can fail as well prematurely, not a big job to fix. Is it perfect? No. Does it do the job? Yes. Job done. Whew, losing my voice. Time to go home. TKC 80 tracks all the way up. Beautiful.